Hello and welcome. No. Hello and welcome to the first in a four-part webinar series that I am super excited about. We are going to be covering some amazing topics on the coming cultural revolution. And it is coming, guys. I tell you what, we are looking at the biggest cultural shift that we have seen in a generation. So we're going to talk about that. That's going to be the focus of this webinar. And then over the next 3 weeks beyond this, we're going to look at some of the technologies underpinning this technological cultural revolution, how to become an influence in that culture, in that sphere. And then what opportunities are there that we can capitalize on to not only create influence, but also generate some income. So those are really exciting topics. And I'm so thankful and grateful to be able to unpack those with you. So the first, like I said, the first series, the first part of this series is the coming cultural revolution. So we're going to look at a kind of a high level overview of what's going on and what's coming, because we have got to be ready. I am absolutely positively convinced that we are on the very cusp, like ground floor level of the biggest cultural shift that we have seen in a generation. And so we have got to, as people of integrity and honor, we have got to step into that space in order to shape the culture with honor and integrity. So my name is Steve Hart. I am in charge of business development at Metaspark. We're a technology company that is focused on cultural influence through digital presence and technological innovation. Digital presence basically is everything from a simple website on the internet all the way up through social media and into metaverse technologies like digital land ownership and NFTs and brand building in the metaverse. So we kind of cover all that territory as when under the umbrella of what we call digital presence. And then technological innovation basically just means that we are technology experts who love to think outside the box. Technology is this amazing, dynamic beast that just moves like you would not believe and develops and evolves and is dynamic and constantly changing. And we are excited to be in the thick of that, innovating new ideas and products and services, both for ourselves and our clients. So we're excited just to walk with you and to get to share this experience because this is an unprecedented time in history. So, like I said, this is number one of a four-part webinar series. So part two is the technologies that underline this cultural revolution that we're talking about tonight or today. And then we're going to talk about how to influence that culture as it develops. Like I said, we are ground floor here. And so we want to step into that space with honor and integrity and influence the culture as it develops. We have an opportunity before us that is historic. And then in week 4, we're going to talk about how to leverage the opportunities that this cultural shift presents. Because just like with every cultural shift before it, there are massive opportunities for influence and also financial gain. So we're going to take a look at a lot of those over the next over the next 4 weeks. And then our e-courses that we're launching in February of next year, 2023, are going to cover in depth a lot more of this information. So if this piques your interest tonight and over the next 4 weeks, then we've got a lot more in store for you through our e-courses and through a bunch of other digital services that we're launching. So, but today, we are in the high level overview mode of this cultural revolution that we are on the very cusp of. So I want to start off by, as we dive into this, by talking about some of the cultural revolutions that have come before this, up to this point, in the same vein. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we could look at. You know, there's the personal computer and there's cell phones and the evolution of the smartphone and all that stuff. So you could qualify those all as cultural revolutions, right? But there's going to be 3 tonight in particular that we look at that are all in the same vein and have this continuation of this evolutionary technological culture. So back in 1991 was really the dawn of the internet. It was really in its infancy. It was one of those things that was, they didn't expect it to grow like it did. But from about the first 10 or 12 years of the internet, from 91 until the early 2000s, we really had an internet um, that was really content based and consumer focused. And what I mean by that is they created content and we consumed it as the end user. And what that looked like was a bunch of websites out there, a bunch of static websites typically, or maybe some of them had little animated GIFs on them, but static websites that we just consumed content from. And so this was the age when you paid $15,000 for or more for a website that nowadays you could develop in probably about 60 minutes with almost no actual expertise. So those were the heady days of the early internet. So they created, we consumed, and it was very static. It was just a very, very static system. But in around the early 2000s, around 2004, we began to see this major shift. So we had the internet, which was just revolutionized our culture. We never had so much information at our fingertips that we could consume. But then in the early 2000s, about 2004, we had social media came on the scene. And that represented a massive shift because then we became the content creators. It wasn't just about them, out there in cyberspace, developing content for us to surf the web and consume. We became the content creators. And so it was super exciting because we could post our thoughts and our opinions really on a mass scale like never before. And that meant that all of these creative people had a new place, a new format to express themselves in. So there was, new music and social media postings and all kinds of videos being created. And so from about 2004 up until, well, right now, we've just got massive amounts of content being created. I just read an article the other day that scientists they have to come up with they've actually done it. I can't remember what it is, but they've come up with a new term because we've created so much data. There's gigabytes and terabytes and I think petabytes and then exabytes and zettabytes. And now there's something even beyond that they've had to come up with a new term because we're just generating so much data. So, and a lot of that is because of video, things like YouTube. We've been able to go from the static internet into a place where we're generating content. So lots and lots and lots of people have YouTube channels and social media feeds, and that has really, since the early 2000s until now, has really been the age of content creators. But what we found was we created all this content, but then we found out that we didn't really control it. People could copy it or distribute it like as they wanted to. We could be censored, and for evidently no apparent reason sometimes. And so we found that even though we're creating this content, we really don't own it, and we certainly don't control it. And that became a big issue, and that's, we just had Elon Musk buying Twitter and, championing free speech and all that stuff, and of course the subsequent bloodbath in the Twitter staff has made lots of headlines. But this idea that we should be able to create and express whatever we want and be able to control the distribution of that has really come to the forefront in terms of technology. And so this year, 2022, we've seen the beginnings of this massive shift. It's almost like a fast-moving glacier that is hit this pivot point. And what we're seeing is content creators really becoming dissatisfied with the fact that they create this content, but they don't control it. They don't control the distribution. They don't really own it. Even buying a movie on Amazon, in the terms, Amazon clearly states that, yes, you have bought this, but we actually still own it. What? We paid money for something that we don't actually own. That's crazy, but that's the digital age that we currently live in. But the technology has reached the point where we're now shifting to a place where content creators can exercise ownership and control over their created works. So whether that's videos or artwork or music, whatever it is, the technology is now available for creators to own that content and control it. So that's a pretty exciting shift, especially if you're a content creator. So that is 2022, and if 1991 was the internet and 2004 was social media, then 2022 is really the advent of the metaverse. And I want to unpack that a little bit, because metaverse is a word that's getting thrown around a lot. In fact, the company formerly known as Facebook is now Meta, and they have developed Horizon Worlds, or are developing Horizon Worlds at the cost of, so far, tens of billions of dollars. And it is this virtual reality environment that you can interact with and talk to people through, and all kinds of other stuff. And the potential there is really amazing. But what companies like Meta have yet to realize is that the shift is happening that's moving away from these major platforms having control into a decentralized network where content creators have control on an individual level, and decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, which we will talk about in a future webinar, are becoming kind of the norm in this metaverse experience, where you have a group of people that really function very democratically in how they're organized in terms of structure, much more so than companies like Facebook or Google or Apple or whatever. So I want to talk about, just to help us define what metaverse actually is. And it's a little sketchy, because metaverse means a lot of things, because there isn't a formal definition. In fact, some people say metaverse and they just think the thing that the company formerly known as Facebook is creating. Or they think, oh, that's like blockchain and cryptocurrency, or that's the NFT thing, or whatever. And then explain to me what a non-fungible token is, right? An NFT. And they're like, oh, but all of these things are not the metaverse. They're all parts of the technologies that are underpinning the metaverse. But what the metaverse really is, it's the next iteration of human digital interaction and our interaction with technology. So it's not defined by a platform or a collection of technologies or tools or specific trends. That's why things like a cryptocurrency exchange collapsing overnight, or Bitcoin like falling by thousands of dollars in value, or the NFT market imploding, those things, they're not going to affect the metaverse and its continual march forward into our lives, because they're just aspects and expressions and technologies that are part of this metaverse experience. Because the metaverse really is about experiences that dramatically shift the way that we interact with each other, finances, technology, and the world around us. And that is the metaverse. That is what is coming, is this experiential, interactive environment that's not just virtual reality where you pop on a headset and you're like bubbling around the room trying to like pick up things with, in your virtual environment or whatever. That is a current like rudimentary expression of something in the metaverse, but the metaverse is actually much bigger than that, and it is a culture. It is a culture, and it's coming to change the way that we interact with just about everything that touches our lives. So when you hear people talk about metaverse, it's really important to define exactly what that is that they're talking about, because right now it's a very generic term. But for us, it is about the experiences of and the interactions in this new technological culture. So why is it important to even understand what the metaverse is? Well, it's important for the same reason that somebody standing in 1989 or 1990 and saying, this internet thing, or even 1992 or 3, this internet thing, this is not a big deal, this is a passing fad. Why do I even need to learn about this? Why do I even need to get on board with this internet thing? Well, now, 30 years later, the internet is entwined in virtually every aspect of daily life. You cannot go to the grocery store and buy something on your debit card without the internet. You cannot shop on Amazon, obviously, or eBay without the internet. You can't send money through Cash App or Venmo or PayPal without the internet. You can't stream Netflix without the internet. You can't have a virtual classroom or a remote Zoom meeting or even a remote job a lot of times without the internet. So this has really entwined itself with our daily lives in ways that we really don't even realize. And so that is the culture that has been created over the last 30 years since the internet came to be. So now we're sitting at the next 30 years, the start of the next 30 years of this cultural revolution. And instead of saying, well, we don't really need to think about this, we're saying, yes, we do need to think about this, because not only are there huge opportunities there to capitalize on financially, but there's huge, massive, unprecedented opportunities to capitalize on from an influence and cultural shift standpoint. And that's what we're all about. That's one of our chief goals at Metaspark, is to influence the culture with integrity and honor into this new cultural, technological landscape. So it is an inevitability that the metaverse is coming, just like it was an inevitability that the internet was going to be as entwined in our lives as it is. And there's really two main factors that I see in terms of why this is such an inevitability. One is technology, because technology keeps marching forward. It goes inexorably on and evolves and develops and changes. That is just what technology does. And this iteration that we're looking at, the metaverse, like, it is the next evolution. And so we are marching there. No matter what cryptocurrencies collapse, no matter what NFT blah 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 implodes, doesn't matter. Like, technology is marching us forward. So that's the first reason that this inevitability factor exists. But the second reason is actually us, people, because we have created a culture. We've created this digital culture over the last 30 years that involves the internet and e-commerce and communication, FaceTime, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of these things, Amazon, Google, I mean, you name it, right? There's tons of things out there that shape our lives because we've created this culture, this digital culture. And as humans, we want to explore, fully explore, and develop and interact with that culture. It's just what we do. We are creators and explorers by nature. That's how we were made. And so to have this technology that's marching forward all the time, we want to be able to explore it fully. And for us as humans, that means in a spatial, first-person, interactive kind of experience. And that is what the metaverse is aiming to deliver to us, is a brand new way to experience this technological culture that we've created and the people around us that are also in it. So for those two reasons, technology itself and our very own human nature, the metaverse is just inevitable. So you can watch the crypto markets rise and fall. You can watch, cryptocurrency traders, come and go. But those things are not going to stop the coming of the metaverse. So that is why it is so important that we come to understand what we're looking at, what we're dealing with, and not just how to survive into it, not just to hang on until we die or it passes or whatever, but to thrive in it, to get to the point where we can step in with authority and influence and actually thrive in this culture. Because a lot of people are afraid. A lot of people are scared about this coming change. And really, I get that. Even being in this space, in this technological space that I love, honestly, it's a little scary to think about what it looks like. I mean, you see things like WALL-E, where we're all just like floating around in our little hover cars and, sucking on our straws, and we're all hugely fat because we never get exercise. Or, we're all plugged into our VR headsets and we're like bumping around the room and into each other and knocking things off shelves because, we're in this virtual world that has superseded, at least for the moment, our actual environment. And so stuff like that it does give you pause. It is a little scary, but there are so many benefits. And honestly, like I said, it's coming. It is an inevitable march forward. And so we have got to intersect it as people of integrity and honor and create a beachhead in this culture, in this environment, so that we can have a sphere of influence in this new culture. So, um, so yeah, all that is why it's important to understand the metaverse and the coming cultural shift and this digital revolution that we're looking at, because it is coming, and we have the opportunity to influence it in a major, major way. So let's make our mark, right? Let's make our mark on this new culture as people of integrity and honor before it, gets taken over by people that live in kind of the gray world of integrity, right? Because we can't let this sphere of influence go before it even starts, before it even gets off the ground. We've got to get there first, and begin to create and establish a culture of honor and integrity in this space. So I'm going to throw up a web comparison chart from a guy named Kerry Oberbrunner, and it says right on there that we can use it. We've got his permission as long as we give him attribution. It actually comes from a book that he wrote called Blockchain Life, that's all about this digital revolution and how we can navigate it as godly people of integrity. So this, and actually he does an excellent job of outlining this transition from the outset of the internet all the way until now. And so I encourage you to look at this chart. There's a lot of terms on there that probably are going to make you scratch your head, which is okay. I encourage you, especially when it's talking about kind of where we're going in that column. It says Web3, where it talks about open source and DAOs and easy IP and all that stuff, to Google those terms, because those are going to become very important terms going forward. So we're going to need to understand those. So, but he does a great job of outlining just kind of the whole experience of going from the internet where they created, we consumed, to the kind of social media internet where we created, but they owned and they controlled the distribution, into this new decentralized metaverse experience of our digital culture where we create, but we get to own and manage the distribution. So this is, like I said, huge for content creators, of which I am one of. So it's very exciting for me. But take a look at this. Take a look at this chart and kind of get familiar with some of the terms that are on there, because that's really going to be a great resource to just Google some of those terms and learn. And so, I've talked a lot about this coming cultural shift and how huge it is, and it is massive. I feel like it's as much as the internet itself has entwined with so many aspects of our daily life in quote unquote Western culture, but even beyond Western culture, right? I mean, we've got almost half the planet is on Facebook. So, but as much as that internet has entwined itself with our lives, so the metaverse is going to as well. And we may not like that. It may be scary at this point, but it's coming. It just is coming. And so it is incumbent upon us to be the influencers, to be the change agents in this space. So how do we do that? How do we go from, oh my gosh, what is happening, to I'm going to influence this space. I'm going to establish something with honor and integrity in this space so that I can be a cultural influencer. How do we do that? First thing is to learn, and that seems maybe like an oversimplification, but it really is just learn. Google those terms on the chart that you don't recognize. Just get a grid. If you don't have some basic understanding of the culture in front of you, you're not going to be able to influence it. And so that is number one, numero uno, is to just learn about the culture and get a grid for it. Now it's changing all the time. It's up and down. I mean, we've all seen like the crypto markets rise and fall, and the NFT market rocket up and crash down just in the span of a few months. And so put all that aside, because that's just how it is with startup stuff. It's how it is with startup tech stuff, right? We all, well, maybe not all of us, but some of us remember the dot-com bubble and burst that happened and the economic fallout of that. And I think we learned something from that. We learned to be a little wary, and to not trust quite so much, and to certainly not invest quite so heavily. But there's nothing wrong with experimenting a little bit. So dip your toe in, learn about this stuff. And the more you understand it, the greater your influence is going to be in this space. And that's one of the reasons, in fact, one of the chief reasons that Metaspark exists, is to give people an educational framework for understanding these crazy concepts that are out there and that are coming. And so that we can help more people to be influencers, help more people operate with integrity and honor in this space. Like I said, experiment with what's out there. Go on to OpenSea, the NFT marketplace, one of the biggest NFT marketplaces, and just see what's there. See what things are selling for as digital artwork. Get a feel for and a flavor for what's going on in that space. Learn about NFTs. Google what a non-fungible token actually is. Take a look at virtual real estate and things like the Sandbox or Decentraland. And if you have a VR headset or somebody who does, just pop it on and load an app and just see what it's like, what the experience is like, what the limitations are, especially. Because as you do, you'll begin to think, oh gosh, well, if we could do this, or if we could create that, or if we could make this better, and you will begin to innovate. And so those are some of the things that I'd recommend. Also invest a little bit in cryptocurrency. I mean, even if it's a few bucks, right? And a little bit of Ethereum. For a few bucks, you're not going to get a whole Ethereum. You're going to get a little bit at this point. But invest in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Dogecoin even, and just see what happens. Have fun watching the rise and fall of the cryptocurrency markets, and the rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall. Just have fun with it and get to play around with it. And then capitalize on the opportunities. Just as the internet and social media have generated massive opportunities for influencers and for financial streams of revenue, the metaverse is going to do the same thing, only exponentially so. So what we're looking at really is this cultural shift that brings with it so much in terms of opportunity. So look for ways that you can capitalize on it, because there are a ton out there. We're going to touch on a few in just a second, and then more in our fourth session of this webinar series. And then keep your eyes out for where you could exercise your current expertise in metaverse technologies, or maybe even develop new expertise to leverage in those spaces. Because we need people that are well established, that are experts in their field, that are operating with honor and integrity where they already are, to step into the metaverse, to step into these realms and exercise that same expertise in the spaces that are available, or create new spaces. This is the beautiful thing about the metaverse, is that you can create so much. You can create whole worlds. You can create real estate opportunities, digital real estate opportunities. So look for ways to leverage your existing skill set, or expand your skill set into a new realm. So I've mentioned a lot about opportunities. Like I said, the fourth session in this webinar series is going to cover more in those and what opportunities are out there. And then in our e-course series next year, we're going to do a deep dive into a lot of that stuff. A lot of it's changing, so we'll have lots of updates as we go along. But there are just tremendous opportunities. So I really encourage you to kind of hop in and see what's out there. But some of the things that are out there as opportunities for you are, if you're a content creator, whether that's a musician, an artist, a blogger, um, a video producer, anything like that, the metaverse is like a playground, man. It is a massive, massive playground of opportunity. And so it's just waiting for you to step in with your creator mind and go to town. And so there are many, many, many opportunities right now because like whole digital worlds are being created right now. And so the opportunities, if you're a creative person, to step into those spaces, huge, absolutely huge. We saw a lot of traction on NFTs earlier this year. That market just skyrocketed so much because it was novelty, really, novelty more than anything else. But that is a market that it will stabilize. I believe it will stabilize and be a viable place for you to sell digital art. And not just digital art, but so much more than that. So anyway, but check out things like that. Check out OpenSea. Check out NFT marketplaces and just see what's out there. There's whole new areas of commerce that are opening up in the metaverse. Digital real estate, I mentioned it. We're going to touch on that more in depth later in a later webinar, obviously, and in our e-course. But digital real estate is becoming huge. There's the Sandbox and Decentraland and others that are out there that are they're literally digital land that you can buy and that you can rent. Like you can literally go into a place like the Sandbox and you can buy a piece of digital property. You can build a digital house on that property, and then you can rent that house out to real people who are paying you real money. Now, if that does not just blow your mind a little bit, I don't know what does. So, so there's lots of opportunities like that. There's, like I've mentioned, NFTs several times. There's VR game development. There's cryptocurrency. I think that there's a lot of naysayers in the cryptocurrency world that are saying, it's a scam or a Ponzi scheme or whatever. But one of the things that we're going to get into in our e-course next year is just how viable cryptocurrency actually is. And even, dare I say, more so than the paper money that we carry around with us or the debit cards that we use to buy our groceries. So we'll get into that next year during our e-course. Blockchain is another thing. Blockchain is a technology. There's a lot that I could explain about it, some of which we will touch on next week in our webinar, the technologies that underlie the metaverse. But blockchain is huge, and it's intrinsically tied to cryptocurrency, but it can be so much more. The potential for blockchain technology is literally off the charts. So if you can get into that space as a developer, or even just somebody, not a developer even, but just somebody who can take that blockchain technology and apply it to an existing industry, oh man, you can revolutionize that industry. The financial services industry is already looking at blockchain because it allows their back office reconciliation to happen just dozens of times quicker than it does currently. And so there's lots and lots of applications for blockchain tech. So you can hop into that space and make a killing. And the metaverse needs development. It's kind of like the Wild West out there right now. There's like all kinds of stuff going on. There's not a lot of regulation and there's not a lot of standardization. So, I can't pick up my digital house on the Sandbox and take it over to Decentraland. So it would be great to be able to have some interoperability. So if you're a developer in that space, man, you've got some huge opportunities in front of you. As markets stabilize in NFTs and cryptocurrency and those types of things and really become vehicles for solid investment, I think that there are huge opportunities in there. So there are so many more that we could take a bite out of. And we will in future webinars, in our e-course, and some of our other digital offerings. But this is one of those things that it's a rapidly changing landscape. So opportunities are going to come, opportunities are going to go, and it's an inherent are incumbent upon us that we seize those opportunities as soon as we can and capitalize on them. That's where you make the money. That's where you gain the influence. And so those two things don't always go together. Sometimes they do. It's great when they do. But we're out to create an army of cultural influencers to step into the metaverse and operate with honor and integrity in this space so that we can create an environment in this new cultural revolution that is built on honor, integrity, justice, and godly values. So thank you for watching. I'm going to open it up for questions. If you've got to hop off, that is totally cool. We understand. We will catch you next time. Next week, we'll be diving into metaverse technologies and some of the things that underpin this great technological cultural revolution. Thank you for your time.